Hey you guys, happy Monday. And I just figured to kind of do something different. So for the next couple of days, I'm going to be working on Butterick 7012. This is my next make as part of hashtag Make 5, I believe. Yeah, Make 5 2025. And it's this pattern, Butterick 7012. Now, for Make 5, I'm supposed to be doing just the vest, but I think I'm going to do the vest this week and the pants next week. Yeah. So, what I'm going to do each night that I'm in my sewing room, I'm going to share with you guys the day and the process that I have made on the pattern. So, today is day number 1. It is Monday the 12th. I have already eaten, I have already went to work, all of that good stuff. So today is just cutting out the pattern. That's all I'm going to get done today. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let's go. Alright you guys, so now it's time to cut the pants, and I need pattern piece number 20 to 28. So I'm going to cut out all 9 pieces. So let's go ahead and get into it now. All right, you guys, it's been 22 minutes cutting the vest and the pants out for this pattern, Butterick 7012. So I am done for the night. We got the first day down in the books, and that was just strictly cutting the pattern out, 22 minutes. I only had an hour, and right now it is 9:45 at night, and it took me 22 minutes. I'm not mad for that, okay? Well, that's it for tonight, and I will catch you in the next video, or next day, I should say. Same video, next day. All right, talk to you soon. Peace. Hey, you guys, happy Tuesday. Today is May the 13th, and like I said, this is going to be every day sharing with you guys every day that I'm in the lab or sewing studio, what I'm working on. So today, still working on Butterick 7012. Let me show you the pattern again for reference. I'm working on this one. Right now, I am going to be working with the vest first in this video, of course. And today, I am just going to be doing some sizing up. Now, this is one of the things that many of you guys asked me about, to share more of the sizing up process and explain in more detail. So I'm going to be doing that today. I just came back from my walk, which is why I have my hat on or whatnot. So yeah, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get our items out and make some adjustments. Now, for me, I normally always have to make the standard adjustments of sizing up the bust, waist from time to time, and on the pants, it'll be the hips. But we are strictly just working on the vest today. So without further ado, I'm gonna switch over to my top-down camera instead of my full face on camera. So I'm going to do that and then we're going to get started. All right, so let's go ahead and go now. Hey you guys, welcome to the next thing that we are going to be touching bases on. This is day number 2. It is May the 13th. So what we're going to be doing today is sizing up. This is one of the things that you guys always ask me. So I'm going to get the pattern here shortly, but I am doing Butterick 7012. The only 4 pieces you're going to need are pattern piece number 1, your front, pattern piece number 2, your side front, pattern piece number 3, the back, and pattern piece number 4, the side back. This is for the vest, which is view A. Let me show you. So what we're going to be doing is view A, which is the blazer, crop blazer, whatever you want to call it. That's what I'm going to be working on in this video. However, I'm walking you through what to do each day to where you could pause it, stop it each day so I can show you how I get things done. All right, so that's the purpose of this entire video. It'll be a couple of days. All right, now let's talk about the things you're going to need in order to do this sizing up. I may and may not have to do the sizing up, but I want to show you what I do. I'm probably going to have to size this up, but we will see when we get to this part because I have not done anything just yet. All right. So move your pattern out of the way, move your instructions out of the way. Make sure you have pressed your pattern pieces with a nice warm iron, no water. Okay. Now, the first thing you want to do, well, let me tell you what you will need. Pattern piece 1, 2, 3, and 4. You're going to need a ruler. Now, I'm going to be using 2. I'm going to be using this ruler right here, which is my see-through ruler by Dritz. And then I'm also going to be using this one, which is also another see-through ruler by Dritz. I use this one strictly for like half, 5/8, you know, it's just easier to see the lines where they need to be. And then the other one is for like if I'm doing an inch or a half an inch, okay? You're also going to need pencil. I'm going to say use a pencil if you are new to sizing up. I am, however, going to be using a pen only because I'm showing you this on camera. But normally I would be using a pen when I am sizing up my patterns, okay? Also, you're going to need a calculator. This is where your calculation is going to help you. I'm going to walk you through how to do this, and then you guys could always come back to this video on how to size up a pattern. I have done this before, but you guys always ask me. So we're going to walk through it. You're going to need a calculator. So make sure you have a calculator. And then the last thing you're going to need is some form of paper. Now, this is old gift wrapping paper from the holidays. I still have some left over. This was all that was left over. And I like to keep gift wrapping paper for when I need to do sizing up instead of just throw it away. Hey, it's called reuse, reduce, recycle. Okay? All right, so those are all the things you're going to need today. So let's go ahead and start with sizing our pattern up. First, we're going to make sure you have already taken your bust, your waist, and your hip measurement. Now, this one does not hit at your hips unless you lengthen it, but you're definitely going to need your bust and your waist measurement, okay? Once you take that measurement, I advise you to write it on a piece of paper. You could write it on your instructions. You could also write it on your pattern. Whichever way you want to do it is completely up to you, but I'm going to definitely say write your bust measurement down and your waist measurement. Now, for the sake of this video, I am going to be using my measurements instead of my daughter. However, I am going to trace this pattern because I will be making one for my daughter later on in the year when school starts back, okay? So, you're going to see mine in a trace form, but I want to do the measurements on real on the tissue paper, and then I'll trace what I need and add all of those adjustments. Okay. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Move all the other pattern pieces out the way, and let's just grab pattern piece number 1. Let's go. All right. So now we have pattern piece number 1. The only thing I'm going to advise you to do is have your calculator close by and have your tape measure, a pencil or a pen. You don't need your paper just yet because we're going to take all the measurements on our pattern piece first, and then if you need the paper to size up, that's what you're going to do. So grab your ruler, your tape measure, I should say. Now, this is pattern piece number 1. You have the bust and the waist, okay? Now, what you want to do, now for me, you want to look and see what the finished garment measurement, that's when you have pattern piece 1, 2, 3, and 4 completely sewn together, what it's going to be. Now for me, my bust measurement is a 42.5, right? I like to have 1.5 to 2 inches of ease, okay? With that being said, that means that my finished garment measurement needs to be minimum 44.5. That's 42.5, 42.5, right? And I want, if I do 1.5 inch, 42.5 plus 1.5, that gives me 44, right? If I want 2 inches, it's 44.5. Now, from what it's telling me on the front of this pattern piece, right? It tells me an 18 should give me 44.5, okay? So right now, what size am I going to cut? It looks like I potentially, and yes, I'm saying potentially, simply because most of the time, the finished garment measurement on these patterns do not match what I end up measuring across. I always measure my pattern pieces. I do not care what's on these finished garment measurement because 9 times out of 10, it is incorrect, okay? And your garments end up small. So that's why I always say, first step, measure your pattern pieces. All right, so because it says that I'm going to be doing a size 18, 44.5, that's where I'm going to stick with to begin with. So all 4 pattern pieces, I'm going to measure size 18 first. If I'm not getting 44.5, then I'll move up to a size 20. All right, so first things first, this is the size 18 line, the first line right here. So I'm going to measure there all the way over, and that gives me 10, all right? So I'm gonna write size 18, and I'm gonna write 10, and that's just the measurement from this 18 line to the front, okay? Make sure you do that. Now, this right here is gonna be folded. If you look at the pattern, it's gonna be folded back, as you see here. So you can't really say that that's 10, okay? Now, what I'm going to do is use my ruler. And do you see where this front line says center front? Okay. I'm going to actually do it in a pencil, but there's a center front line right here. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm just going to measure it all the way up the front. Reason being is because that's the line that is your actual center front and not all the way to the end of your front piece, if that makes sense, okay? So I want to make sure that I did that, all right? So I measured, basically I just made a line extending all the way up to the front, all right? So instead of doing a 10, I'm going to measure from here, right, to that center front line, and that's 8. Okay. It's actually a little less than 8. It's about, for me, it's about 7 7/8. So that's what I'm going to put down here. 7 7/8. So I'm going to write 7.875, which is 7 7/8. And how did I get 0.875? I know the math, but you would do 7 divided by 8. And you get 0.875. All right. Now, because you have 2 front pattern pieces, and it says to cut 2 right here, you multiply that by 2. Now, if you have it on the fold, you will do multiply by 2 as well, but the seam allowance is different. Just follow along with me. You have 2 front pattern pieces, 1 left, 1 right, so you're going to multiply that number by 2. Make sure you are doing whatever size you're measuring. I'm not doing every single size. I'm just doing size 18 for right now. So if you're doing a size 20, measure from the 20 line to that center front line. If you're doing a 22, measure from the 22 line to the center front line that I created right here. That line up is the center front line. All right. So I'm going to do 7.875, multiply that by 2, and that gives me 15.75. Okay. Now we have seam allowance, and the seam allowance is 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. So now here's the thing. You have 5/8 of an inch seam allowance on the side seam. This is the side seam. So you have 5/8 of an inch seam allowance there. This portion right here, which is where the facing is going to be, where it's going to be folding back, like you see right here, okay? That is also going to be 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. So if you have 5/8 here, 5/8 there, you have 10/8. So 5 plus 5 is 10 divided by 8, right? 10 divided by 8 is 1.25. 1.25 is 1 1/4, okay? So that's just for one pattern piece. You also need to add that again for the other front. So this is one front pattern piece. You need to do that for the other front pattern piece. So I'm just going to put plus 1.25, which gives you 2.5. And 2.5 is the seam allowance for both front pieces. 5/8 here on the side seam, 5/8 here on the front seam, okay? So you subtract out 2.5. And when I take 15.75 minus 2.5, make sure you are doing whatever sides that you are doing here. But your seam allowance is going to be the same at 2.5. And that's what SA stands for, seam allowance. So I have 13.25, okay? You're going to do the same thing for the waist, all right? Now I'm going to show you this again, and then you need to do the same thing for your side front, and then we'll do the back together, okay? So pattern piece, you go from this size 18, do whatever size you are doing, all right? Now, before I do that, I have a dart. So I need to measure the dart pieces. So here is the leg right here for the size 18, and here's the other measurement, okay? So here and here for size 18. If you are doing a size 20, this one and this one would be your size 20, all right? But because this is for size 18, I'm going to measure from the 18, and that looks like to be 1/2 of an inch. So the darts are 1/2 an inch. So because there's 2 darts, one on this front, one on the other front, 1/2 plus 1/2 is 1 inch, is what we're going to take out. All right, so don't forget that. So first things first, I'm going to measure from the side seam line to the center front line. That is giving me a little over 7.5. It's 7 5/8. So in order to figure out 5/8, you take 5 divided by 8, which I know is 0.625, but I'm showing you on the calculator. So it is size 18 is 7.625. Once again, you're going to multiply by 2 because you have 2 front pieces. All right, multiply that by 2. You have 15.25. Now, I'm going to write on here that the darts are at 1/2 an inch. And because we have a dart on the left side of the front and a dart on the right side of the front, we're going to subtract 1 inch. And I'm going to write a note, darts, okay? So subtract the 1 inch, which gives you 14.25. Now we subtract out the seam allowance. The seam allowance, 5/8 here, 5/8 here for the front, for the left front, and then another 5/8 and 5/8 for the right front, which is the same seam allowance as the bust line, which is 2.5. So subtract out 2.5. And now you have 11.75. All right. So that's what I have for the waistline for size 18. All right. So let me move this out the way and grab your side front pieces. All right. Just pattern piece number 2, your side front. All right. So now we have our side front. It's going to be the same thing. I'm going to do the side front and then you'll do the back by yourself. Now, how to figure out where I got the lines from. The waistline is 2.5 inches from the hem. That's for every size, okay? So go from the bottom up 2.5 inches and make a line all the way across for your waist. You're gonna do that on all pattern pieces. Pattern piece 1, 2, 3, and 4 are the only pattern pieces you need to do this to, all right? So measure from the bottom up 2.5 inches from the hem and make a line for your waistline. In order to figure out your bust line is 6.75 inches above your waist. Once again, 6 3/4 or 6.75. How did I get that? I measured from the waist up on pattern piece number 1, which is 6.75, and I mirrored it between all pattern pieces, 2, 3, and 4. All right. Now that I explained that, how did I get the bust and the waistline? Let's talk about, now this is a size 20. I don't have a size 18. But one thing that I will mention is make sure you do the same thing for all pieces for pattern piece number 2, pattern piece number 3, and pattern piece number 4. Now, because I have a size 20, one thing that I know for myself, I am going to be wearing a shirt underneath mine. So instead of doing a size 18, I will go ahead and go up to a size 20. Now, grabbing pattern piece number 1, it says a size 20 is going to give me a 46.5. That's more than enough ease. 45 would be great, but we don't know what it's going to be until we sew it all together. All right, so what I'm going to do, size 20, I'm going to recap this one last time, and then I'm going to do all these sizing on off camera and come back and share with you guys how to add up the circumference and see what sides to cut. All right. So first things first, size 20, I'm going to measure across to the center front. That's 8. I'm going to take 8 times 2, which is 16, and then subtract the seam allowance, which is 2.5. And that should give you 13.5. Okay? Do the same thing for your waist. Don't forget, you have to measure where the darts are. So my dart is here and here. I'm going to measure in between there. And it gives me a 1/2 inch. Right at about a 1/2 inch. Well, for a size 20 or 22, it's actually more than a half. It's actually 3/4. If you are doing a size 20 or 22, your dart lines are at 3/4 instead of a 1/2 inch. So if you are doing a size 18, it's a 1/2 inch. Size 20 and 22 is a 3/4 inch. And then if you are doing a 24, 26, yours would be 3/4 as well. Okay? Let me recap the darts. Size 18 is a 1/2 inch apart. Any other size is 3/4. So you would do 3/4 plus 3/4 for both darts, which is 1.5. All right? So just stay with me. So let's do a size 20 for the waist. What I'm going to do is take my measuring tape, measure all the way to the center front, which gives me 7 and 8/7. 7 and 7/8. I'm sorry, 7 and 7/8, which is 7.875. Multiply that by 2, which gives me 15.75. Now, the darts is at 3/4. So 3/4 plus 3/4 are 0.75 plus 0.75 is 1.5. Okay, that's what I'm going to take out for the darts. I'm going to write darts so you don't get confused. And that's 14.25. Then I'm going to subtract the seam allowance, which is 2.5. And that gives me 11.75. Okay? So what that means is size 20 is giving me 11.75 for the waist, and the bust is at 13.5. All right? Move that aside. We're going to do the same thing for our front. Size 20 is what I'm working on. So I'm going to measure from a size 20 to the front, which is a 5. I'm going to write size 20, 5. We are cutting 2 for the side front. So multiply that by 2 equals 10. We don't have any darts. We don't have any pleats. So the only thing we need to take out is the seam allowance, which is 5/8 of an inch seam allowance on both sides. So 5/8 plus 5/8 is 1.25 for the left side, and you have to do the same thing for the right side. So total is 2.5. So when you take 10 minus 2.5, you have 7.5. All right, the bust, same thing. You go measure across, and that gives me 5 3/4. So I'm going to write size 20. 5 3/4 is 5.75. Multiply that by 2 is 11.5. And then subtract out the seam allowance of 2.5, which gives me 9. Okay? Move that off to the side. Grab pattern piece number 3. Now, I feel like you could do this on your own. It's the same thing. There's no darts or anything, so you would do the same thing. Go from the front to whatever side you're doing. I'm doing a size 20, so I'm going to go from the front to a size 20, and it's giving me 6.125 or 6 1/8. So I'm going to write size 20, 6.125. Multiply that by 2 because we're cutting 2. And that gives me 6.125 times 2 is 12.25 minus the seam allowance, which is 2.5. It's not cut on the fold. As long as it's not cut on the fold, your seam allowance most of the time will be 2.5 that you need to remove. If it's cut on the fold, the seam allowance is 1.25. So make a note of that somewhere for you to remember. So minus 2.5, which gives me 9.75. Okay. And then the waist, same thing. I'm just going to speed this up just a little bit. All right, so size 20 is 5.5. So size 20, 5.5 times 2, which is 11. Subtract the seam allowance, 2.5, which gives me 8.5. All right, move pattern piece 3 out of the way. Grab pattern piece number 4. Now, I would normally do this very, very fast because I just know how to add quickly, but I'm showing this on camera, so just bear with me. Now, let me go back one. Okay, so size 20, I said it's 6.125. I'm going to measure that again. And that's supposed to be 6 1/4. I do apologize. It's not the first one. It's the second one right here, which is 6 1/4. So instead of that, it's 6.25 times 2. I'm gonna mark this out. I do apologize about that. 6.25 times 2 is 12.5 minus 2.5, which is 10. Okay. So that would, my mistake, I looked at the wrong tick line. All right. All right, grab number 4. And the reason why is simply because this one is 7 and for 27 and 1/8, which would be 7.125. Multiply that by 2, which would be 14.25. And take out the seam allowance of 2.5, which is 11.75. And then do the waist the same way. For size 20 is 6 5/8. So size 20 is 6.625. That's 5/8. Multiply that by 2. 6.625 times 2. So 5 divided by 8 is 6.25. All right. All right, multiply that by 2, which is 13.25, and subtract the seam allowance of 2.5. All right, so total, you have 10.75. All right, so now you can move your rulers out the way. All you need is your pattern pieces and your calculator. You can move your measuring tape out the way as well. You're done with the measuring tape. So all you need is your calculator and your pattern pieces, okay? So we're gonna start with pattern piece number 1. Now remind you, for size 20, it tells me the bust is gonna be a 46.5. So what you wanna do at size 20, I want to add up all the numbers that I came up with. So for the front, I'm just doing the bust. We'll do the waist in just a second. 13.5 for pattern piece number 1. Pattern piece number 2, I got 9. I have 9. Pattern piece number 3, I have 10. And pattern piece number 4, I have 11.75. So what I actually get is a 44.25. Nowhere near a 46. Now, how they're getting a 46 is simply because I want to say that they are adding in this section right here. Okay? That's that extension that's going to be folded over. Now, if you look at this, it doesn't look like it goes all the way down to here, but it may stop somewhere right up here. If you look at this, but I want to at least, I don't know how far down it's going to go for this lapel area. So that's why I cut it off. Now, 44.25 is perfect for me. Okay. So what I'm going to do is keep a size 20 and not go down to a 18. All right. So the bust is fine at 44.25. Now let's talk about my waist. My waist is the 34. So that's what I'm going to aim to get. Now, if it's bigger than a 44, that's perfectly fine, simply because I do plan on putting like a, not a tank top, but like a crew neck shirt. That's like a knit shirt that I have made. Underneath it, a tank top would go underneath it. A turtleneck could go underneath it. So I want to make sure I have a little bit of room for that as well. So let's measure the waist line of each pattern piece, starting with pattern piece number 1. So pattern piece number 1 right here is at 11.75 for the waist. Pattern piece number 2 is 7.5. Pattern piece number 3 right here is at 8.5. And pattern piece number 4 is at 10.75. That is way too big, okay? But it's okay simply because if I gain weight, I'm perfectly fine, all right? It's 4 inches too big, which I'm okay with that because it's a jacket and not like a top, okay? So 38.5 is very perfect for me, all right? So I think a size 20 is good for me. I don't need to make any modifications. Now, let's say, for instance, I needed to make modifications. I'm going to show you how to do so. So what you want to do, now, I don't need to make any modifications. This is just in case you need to make modifications. I am still going to be using a size 20. But let's just say that instead of a 38.5, I want a size 40 as my waist, okay? Now we know for a size 20, the circumference once it's sewn together is 38 and a half. Well, I don't want 38 and a half. I'll even be easier. I want a 40 and a half, all right? So I take the 38.5 minus 40.5, what I want my finished garment to be when it's all sewn together. Because let's just say my waist is a 38. I want 2 inches of ease, which gives me 40, okay? Or my waist is 38 and a half. I want 2 inches of ease, 40 and a half, right? So I need to size up to where I'm getting a 40 and a half. Now, you only need 2 pattern pieces to size up your pattern. You do not need the side front or the side back. Do not size up these pieces, okay? The front or the back. I'm sorry, the side front or the side back. The only thing you need is pattern piece number 1 and 3. Your front and your back. Now, because you are sizing up 2 inches, think of it, you have 2 back pieces, 2 front pieces. So, how many side seams do you have? You have 4. And how do you get 4? You may be asking yourself, how in the world do you have 4? Because I only see 2 pattern pieces. Simple. You have 2 fronts. You have a left front and a right front, which means 2 pattern pieces, okay? And then on the back, you have a left back and a right back because you have a center back seam line instead of cutting it on the fold, all right? So, all in all, left back, right back, 2 pattern pieces. Left front, left right, 2 pattern pieces. 2 plus 2 is 4. So you take that 2 inches that you need, divide it by 4, and that means you need to size up a 1/2 of an inch only at the waist. Wherever you need to size it up at is where you're going to make that adjustment. So what I'm going to say, I'm not doing this, but I'm just going to show you. So say, for instance, the waist, you only need to size up to a 1/2 of an inch, which total, it would be 2 inches. So let's say I'm doing a size, I'm just going to, for this example, I'm going to use a 26, okay? Because I have to trace this, all right? So what you would do is at this waistline, okay? You would go out a 1/2 inch. Let's just say this is a 1/2 inch, right? Now, let's say, for instance, you don't need to do anything to your bust. I'm going to put something here to keep this in place. Let's say, for instance, you don't need to do anything to the bust, but you have a 1/2 inch that you need to grade to, all right? Now, I would make a 1/2 inch mark at the very bottom too to have a straight edge curve. So what you do, now I'm just going to freehand this, but you can do it however you see fit. Let me scoot the paper up a little bit so you can see it. All right. All right, so this is the bottom edge. So this is the hem. So let's just say that I'm going to use pencil, but just because I want to be able to erase it or cut it off. So this is a 1/2 inch, and let's say this is a 1/2 inch. So you would make sure that you take your ruler and make that same straight edge that you see right here. All right. So like I said, this is just like a test. All right. Now, say for instance, you don't need to make any type of adjustments to the bust line. All you do is go here and trace all the way down to that new dot that you made. That's it. All right. And make sure you do not have any sharp edges. You don't want any sharp edges, okay? So just trace the outline and make sure you're going to this. So what I would do is, you see how this is starting to curve? I would use my hip curve ruler and make that curve exactly like this. making sure you have a grade going from that dot all the way back up to the bust line. All right, that's all you need to do for your front and your back pattern piece. But unfortunately, I don't have anything that I need to size up on this one. All right, so I hope that makes sense for how you're going to size up this pattern. All right. All right, so now that I covered how to size up your pattern pieces, that is all for tonight. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for hanging with me for 30 minutes as I explained this. I'm gonna stop this video here. I'll pick up tomorrow with a new video. So that's it for tonight. I will talk to you tomorrow when we're cutting fabric. All right, peace. All right, you guys, thank you guys so much for hanging in there with me as I explain the sizing up process. I hope you enjoyed today's task, which was just to size up the pattern. Stay tuned for the next time I'm in the lab. Hopefully it's tomorrow, where I'm going to be cutting out the fabric. All right, so until next time, keep sewing. Peace.